Hey friends, welcome back. Now let's actually explore the criteria, the multiple criteria a little bit more. So far what we did was we applied multiple criteria from the same column. Okay, that's important. So for the OR criteria as well as for the AND, let me actually maybe remove one of the ORs. And let's actually also display the AND one more time, the AND criteria here. What we did, if we take a look at the formula here, we see that we apply sales table should be greater or equal to 15 or less or equal to 25, but based on the same column, right? We said that the sales column from the sales table in both of these cases. What if you would like to actually adjust this a little bit? What if we'd like to say, well, I'd like to see sales from the sales table greater than 15, but also that the product name here should at the same time be, let's say, Monster, right? To only evaluate Monster sales above 15 or above or greater than 15. So let's try that. Let me actually remove this here and then say would like to see that the product, and here the product table, from the product table, the product name. So where is it? Product table, product name, down there. This one should be equal to, and then in quotes, I type in Monster Energy. Okay, like that. What do you think what happens if we do it like that way? So let me show it to you. If I press enter now, what I get here is I get an issue, right? I get an error message here. You can see fix this, and here the expression contains columns from multiple tables. That's true, because I have one from the sales table and one from the product name, so product table. But only one column from a single table can be used in a true-false expression that is used in the table filter expression in Calculate. So it gives you a little hint already, but basically the way we do it currently here will not work. That's the main point here. So how can we make this work? Well, what we could do is we could go in here and say, instead of saying it like that, sales table says greater 15, and product table, product name is Monster Energy, we could say that from the sales table here, the product ID here, this one, is equal to, and for Monster it was 1. So I type in a 1 here, and now let's actually try this as an evaluation. I press enter, like that, and let's just see. And here we go. We got a correct result. So obviously this works. As you can see here, we got here sales for Monster, but only the sales, in this case, which are greater than 15, right? That was the condition here. So if I go back to my formula, which we have here, evaluated, the last one, sales between 15 and 25. So this one here, we see that this works properly without any errors. Why is that? Remember what the error message said. When we used, or were referring to the products table, we basically used multiple tables, so the sales table as well as the product table in this Boolean expression here with a double ampersand. And this will never work. We need, if you want to apply the double ampersand here, the multiple criteria with the AND condition, you need to refer to the same table. You see, it don't have to be the same columns, because here we use the product ID and here you use the sales column, but at least it needs to be the same table. That's the premise, okay? So let me actually maybe go back for now and paste this inside. This was the original measure. Now, what if you want to actually use something like an expression like sales table is greater than 15 and the product name should be Monster Energy, because you don't want to keep all the product IDs in mind, right? You can't remember all of them. Maybe you have a bigger table and you don't want to do it like that. Instead, you want to say, I want to see the sales greater than 15 and the product name should be equal to Monster Energy, right? So can you do that? And yes, you can do that. So how? Well, let's actually create the measure. Let's say sales greater than 15 and the product name should be Monster Energy. So I can right click on my sales table here. I say I'd like to create a new measure. So just a second, here we go. There's our measure. And then we say, we would like to say these are the sales, Monster Energy, above 15, okay, like that. And now it's equal to, and now I go to new line and say I want to calculate here. Now the expression will be the total sales, so total sales. And then as a filter here, we say for the first one that the sales here from the sales table, the sales column should be greater or equal to 15. So far so good. And then we want to make sure that next to this condition here, we would like to have another condition. That is why this time I don't use the double ampersand symbol, I use a comma. And the comma allows me to now apply a second filter criteria here. So basically a complete new table, if you want to call it this way, because that's what it basically is. And my second table, or in this case Boolean expression, is that from the products table here, the products table, the product name, this one here, should be equal to, in our example, Monster Energy, right? Like that. I can close parenthesis now, and I'm good to go. And if I press enter now for this measure, just to evaluate it, we see that here we don't get any issues. No error message, it seems to work. And if we visualize that, if I go in here, let's see what we get. If I take this option, we basically get 25, but now everywhere. So we got the correct result, which is 25, for all the sales for Monster Energy, which are greater than 15. That is true. However, we can see it everywhere. Why is that? Remember, in Calculate we have an external and an internal filter context. The external filter context is coming from the visual, so Monster Energy, Red Bull, Relentless Rockstar, so each of the lines in here. And the internal filter context, if I go back to my Monster Energy sales, this one here, is specified within the Calculate function. Now, because we are referring to the product table near the product name, which is Monster Energy, and we use the exact same column in our table, this one here, the external filter context, so this column, gets overwritten by the internal filter context, which is coming from our filter here, so this one. And that is why for the Calculate, instead of seeing the different energy drinks in our table, it sees basically the name Monster Energy in each row. And that is why it simply returns the 25, which is the evaluated expression for product sales above 15, everywhere in each row. That is the reason for that. If you want to avoid this behavior, you have two options. You can either specify here that instead of the product name, you want to refer to the product ID, okay? Here, product ID, like that. But then, of course, you need to specify not Monster Energy drink here. You need to specify the 1, because the 1 was Monster Energy. And if you press enter, if you do it like that, press enter, you will see that now for the evaluation here, you only have, let me untick this here, the 25 really for the Monster Energy drink column. And again, the other ones are empty. And the reason for this is because now, in the formula itself, if I go back to Monster Energy here, we have a second expression, the second table, which is returned. But this table is referring to a column, which is in this case product ID, which is not available here in the visual we have here. And because we have two different columns, so the internal filter context is not completely overriding the external filter context, because this external filter context, like the product name, is not within the Calculate function specified, and that is why you don't see anything here. It doesn't get overwritten. Okay? So you can get this behavior, but then you need to make sure that what you put inside the Calculate function, as we've done here, that this second expression is not, or the second column here, this is not somewhere visualized in the table or in the bar chart or whatever kind of visualization you have. Okay? Then you get the behavior like that you only see it for one specific column. If you refer to the same column you have already applied in the visual, then it gets overwritten, the internal filter context prevails, and you see the same value everywhere. Okay? So that's how that works. And that's it for this video. So thanks for watching, and can't wait to see you in the next video. Until then, best guys.